Good evening and thanks for being here. Thanks for the introduction, Lee. It's a great pleasure to be back here presenting the life of Helen Keller, which at this time, the time that we're living, I believe is very important to be aware of her life. I have this picture in my kitchen. This is from a local artist, Tim Holland. He's a great photographer. He's local. And this is a picture from Mount Ashland to Mount Shasta. And every morning when I prepare tea, I look at this photograph, and it's kind of my vision board. And here I have a quote from Helen Keller. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. So when is the next adventure in my life? And I look at this picture. And I live in Mount Shasta, actually. I live there. This is my home, 1 hour from here. Give thanks every day for living in this beautiful place here in Ashland. The beauty that we have here in Ashland. This view, I asked Tim, when did you take this picture? He told me it was around November from Mount Ashland. He went up and that Mount Shasta is so inspiring. Now, a little bit about myself. I am the founder of the Zen Institute in Mount Shasta, California. I will share with you my life journey, why I'm here. I'm an accountant, and when I was 28 years old, I quit my job as a corporate accountant. I was working in a petrochemical company, and I began my semi-monastic training in Rochester, New York. I read this book from Philip Kapleau, The Three Pillars of Zen, one of the classics in the West of Zen. So I was there for 7 years training there, Zen training, semi-monastic training. After 7 years, I went back to corporate in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was there for 6 years. And in the meantime, part of my volunteering service, I always try to volunteer with children. And I volunteer an organization called A Child's Place. And I was told during the training that while the parents are working in Walmart at night, children are sleeping in the car. Really? In the US? Yes, that's happening here. They sleep in the car, the children. Did my MBA in Wake Forest University. After I finished my MBA, I quit my job, part of that adventure, and I went to California. I crossed the country driving from New York to San Francisco. I was at the San Francisco Zen Center for 6 months. I was training there. I'm an accountant, so I was in the finance department doing budgets. Moved to Sacramento. I began volunteering at the Sacramento Children's Home. It's an orphanage, has more than 100 years. I was there every weekend for 2 hours, volunteering with children, abused children. I learned a lot. Playing with them, seeing the cases. At the same time, I began to teach Zen Buddhism at the Folsom State Prison, one of the oldest prisons in the US. I was there for 3 years, twice per month, teaching the inmates about how to become free within the most difficult environment. There was a movie called Santana, American Me with Edward James Olmos that it was based on the real facts at the Folsom State Prison. Don't watch that with children. It's a very tough movie. So I was there for 3 years. I never imagined that I will be there teaching. One of the members of the group, now he's free, and now he's a consultant in LA. He teaches inmates. He goes to prison. He's an ex-veteran. He goes to the Capitol, Sacramento, as an activist. It's all in the mind. So that's for me, because we all live in a prison. The problem that we do not know how to use the mind. And I mention this because, in my opinion, if you want to understand the problems in a society, go to an orphanage and go to a prison. More than 50% of the children in the foster care system go to prison. Why? What can we do? Then I moved to Mount Shasta in 2020. I was living in Sacramento. I moved to Mount Shasta. And I became a CASA volunteer. CASA means Court-Appointed Special Advocate. The CASA program began because some judges realized that in the legal system, sometimes the children need to testify against the parents. It's very painful. It's very traumatic for children. So the CASA becomes the voice of the child in the legal system. That's me outside the court in Wairika, 40 minutes from here, in a case that I need to, I was required to testify. And my job, I mentor children and families. I visit children every week. I have 2 now, because I need to monitor them, watch, learn from them, what is going on with them. Because when we are within the court system, I am the voice of the child for the judge. I collaborate in TV and radio in Mexico every week. Now, why share this, and why this relates to Helen Keller? When I was in Rochester training there, I met people from all these countries, from all over the world. Scotland, Argentina, Austria, England, Costa Rica, Mexico, Poland, Sweden, Norway. It's very interesting to meet people from different countries, learn about them. Because, for example, my Zen teacher used to say that many members, instead of taking vacation with the family, they used to come to a 7-day retreat to face the wall and being in silence. So imagine telling to your partner, you know, instead of going for vacation with you and the children, I'm going to sit facing the wall. Really? That's when you need negotiation skills with your partner. Oh, you are leaving me to face the wall, huh? But people did that. They said, why somebody, instead of taking vacation, going to a cruise, wants to face the wall for 7 days to meditate 10 hours a day? So I used to go to the airport to pick up people and ask them, what brought you to Zen? I met musicians, pilots, you name it, from every, I met a nun, and it was very interesting to learn about their life. And one time, I went to the airport, and I saw a quote from Helen Keller. Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and tribute and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision clear, ambition inspire, and success achieve. That went deep. Mm-hmm. Because this is kind of a recipe for success in life. Now, let's imagine that this is a monastery, way up in the mountains. At some point, we all humans fantasize to go to a monastery. I am above all problems. Nothing is affecting me in life. Which I did in my case. I was not on this, but something similar for 7 years, right? I met a guy, he lost in a business deal $50 million. And he said, the solution to the problem is go to a monastery. Yeah, I'm going to go there. I knew of another case, a guy lost $37 million. He recovered and he made $1 million. Now, what is the purpose of these places? One of the functions of these places. This is a classic image from the Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna. And we have the 5 horses, which are the senses of the human being. Mm-hmm. The message here, we need to become masters of our senses. We need to control the senses. All these great scriptures, the Bible, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, that's the main teaching. You cannot achieve higher state of consciousness if you are controlled by the senses. It's almost impossible. That's when these places are useful. That's one of the goals of these places. Now, this is optional. let's do a 1-minute exercise. I will count the time. We will cover our ears and close our eyes for 1 minute. Okay? It's optional, but I will let you know when to start. You ready? So close your eyes. Don't cheat. Okay? Close your eyes. Cover your ears for 1 minute. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can open your eyes. Congratulations, you were initiated into system Kriya Yoga, one of the oldest systems of yoga in the world. But now imagine that. Imagine that this 1 minute becomes permanent in your life. That favorite movie, you will never be able to see it again. That favorite song, your partner telling you, I love you, gone forever. Your child, I love you, mommy, I love you, daddy, gone forever. What kind of life is that? Imagine that you have this forever. 24/7. You cannot see, you cannot hear anything in your life. Well, imagine people go to monasteries to do that, to control the senses. They go to caves, deep in the dark, and they write books. Hey, I was in a cave for 1 week. Well, that's the reason they go there. But if we think about Helen Keller, she was a mobile monastery, 24/7. She couldn't see, she couldn't hear anything. 24/7. And how do you explain to me that she did the following? First deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree from Harvard. Published 14 books, including her famous autobiography, The Story of My Life, and numerous essays and articles. Was proficient in 5 languages: English, German, French, Greek, and Latin. Was a passionate advocate for various social causes, including disability rights, women's suffrage, and pacifism. She played a key role in the founding of the American Civil Liberties Union, demonstrating her commitment to civil liberties and social justice. Traveled extensively, giving lectures and speeches that inspire millions and raising funds for organizations like the American Foundation for the Blind. Awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, this prestigious award recognized her significant contributions to society and her impact on the lives of others. Nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. A deaf and blind woman. I remember during the pandemic, when the pandemic began in April 2020, I read an article on the San Francisco Chronicle. The doctors were asking the authorities to stop the quarantine because they noticed, the doctors in San Francisco, that the suicide rate tripled. People couldn't take it, being in the house. And how do you explain to me that this woman did all this, deaf and blind? You did it for 1 minute. Imagine your life 24/7. Especially this is important now. Humanity is entering a new phase with AI. And what is happening now? Now, let's try to understand where all this is coming from. Okay? We will explore one of the profound teachings. This is Gautama, Siddhartha Gautama, of the founder of Buddhism. Buddhism is not a religion. Buddha means the awakened one. It became a religion because that's how we humans are. We create religions. but he was not interested in a religion. He realized the profundity of life, and he said, this is how life works. The Heart Sutra, and that gives you a clue, is a practice from here. It's not from here. It's not from the intellect. You need to go here. This is the most important teaching in Buddhism. It goes like this. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought, or choice. Nor is there consciousness. No eye, ears, tongue, body, mind. No color, sound, smell, touch, or what the mind takes hold of. So what is this human being telling us? There is no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, or what the mind takes hold of? Not even act of sensing, no ignorance or end of it. Not all that comes of ignorance, no withering, no death, no end of them. This is when these places are useful. Because this is who you are. This is who we are in essence. It's nothing that we need to grasp. Nobody can give us this. It is there waiting for you to awaken this on you. It's dormant there. That's when these places are useful. For example, when I was teaching at the prison with the other volunteers, the schedule was first doing yoga, then do silent meditation in silence, and then to share these teachings. Because if your mind is not quiet, you will not understand this. It's going to be very difficult to grasp who you are. Another word for this is called enlightenment. And this is a definition by Wan Po, one of the greatest Zen teachers in history. Wan Po tells us the following. When practitioners of Zen fail to transcend the world of their senses and thoughts, all they do has no value. It's telling us here, whatever you do but you are controlled by your senses has no value. And we can see that now many people doing crazy things because they are slaves of the senses. There's no value. Mm-hmm. Yet, when senses and thoughts are obliterated, all the roads to universal mind are blocked, and there is no entrance. So Wan Po is telling us here, but when you reject the senses, that is extreme, that is not also the way to freedom. So humans go to two extremes. One, they get attached to the senses, right? Very materialistic. But you go to the extreme that you want to reject the senses. I am above the senses. No, it's the middle way. The primal mind has to be recognized along with the senses and thoughts. It neither belongs to them nor is independent of them. Do not build your understanding on your senses and thoughts yet. Do not look for the mind separate from your senses and thoughts. That's when sometimes we listen that sometimes wisdom is a paradox. Okay, you are telling me not to get attached to the senses, but not to reject them. It's not with the intellect. That's the first clue. You need to move to the heart. It's a sacred marriage between the mind and the heart. Do not attempt to grasp reality by pushing away your senses and thoughts. Unobstructed freedom is to be neither attached nor detached. This is enlightenment. We can understand here how Helen Keller achieved what she did. Because she was not controlled by the senses, right? She couldn't see, she couldn't hear. So she didn't become a slave, but she did not reject the senses. Mm-hmm. That's the middle way. So we can have a clue how she was able to do what she did. And that's the point here. Where is this coming from? A person that cannot see, that cannot listen. Well, let's start This is going to give us a clue. Helen's mother. Helen's mother was a well-read woman. When Helen was small, she read Charles Dickens' American Notes of 1842. In the book, Dickens talks about another deaf-blind woman, Laura Bridgman, who was educated, and Helen's mother became very hopeful. She wanted the same thing for her child, and she resisted the institutionalization of Helen. There are a lot of lessons around Helen's life. First, the importance of education. Helen's mother was an educated woman. She read the story of Laura Bridgman, and she said, I will not allow my daughter to go to an institution. One, the importance of the family, the love of a mother. She said, no. We need these places, we need libraries, because these are places of knowledge. The other lesson here, this is, we can say, a good use of the senses. With the eyes, Helen read that book, that went into her subconscious mind, planted an idea, and she said, I am not sending my daughter to an institution. This is Laura Bridgman, actually. That's the woman that Helen's mother read about. And another lesson here about the value of freedom. Did you know that when Hitler rose to power in Germany, at the beginning, he not only went at the beginning, he also went against Germans. He said, all those people in those institutions, blind, retarded, Down syndrome, kill them all. We don't need them, because he was upset in creating the pure race. He said, kill them all. We don't need them. The Bishop of Germany went to see him, you cannot kill them. And the bishop saved these people in all these institutions. Hitler was ready to kill them. We don't need them. They are useless. Helen Keller, what she did. A disabled person, quote. The value of freedom is so important. Who is in power also? It's very important also. Now, second part of this story. When she was 13, 14 years old, Helen was introduced to this man, John Hitz. Who was John Hitz? Born in Davos, Switzerland in 1849, he went out to California. He went blind at the age of 70, but quickly taught himself Braille. On his father's death in 1864, he succeeded him as a consul general from Switzerland and held that office until 1881. He was one of the incorporators of the American Red Cross. Yes?
Did you mean 17 or 70?
70, at the age of 70.
So after he lived 7 decades?
Yes, he went blind.
Okay.
So he learned Braille
Did the
system.
other things happen before that or after that?
Well, 1849, I guess after. Well,
Okay.
it was before. What is important here, he became blind. He met Helen, so he understood Helen, and he learned Braille system. Now, John Hitz introduced Helen to the work of Emanuel Swedenborg, a Swedish mystic. Well, who was Emanuel Swedenborg? Described by Jorge Luis Borges as the most extraordinary man in recorded history, Emanuel Swedenborg is today acknowledged as one of the most important writers of the 18th century and a pioneering figure in the history of Western thought. Now, he was not only a writer, he was a mystic. In his 50s, Swedenborg opened his spiritual eyes. He could see angels. He could see deceased people, people that died, cross over. He could talk to them as I'm seeing you. And they told him a lot of things. But before that, Swedenborg, he was a genius. Well, he was a genius. He was an inventor. He was a mathematician. He was a secretary for the government. He was working for the government in Sweden. And the way he gained respect that time, because he was working for the Queen of Sweden. And then the brother of the Queen of Sweden died. And then she wanted to test Swedenborg and asked him, okay, there's one thing that only my brother and I know. He died already. Tell me what is it. And Swedenborg told the Queen, this is it. He said, okay, you are real. You are not a fraud, because there are many fraud people around. You know that. I live in Mount Shasta. So, and everywhere. In the internet, you can see them. So there's another story of Swedenborg that he was kind of, because he was working in politics, the husband of the ambassador of France, the husband died. So the man owed money in France to the creditors. And then they went to see her. Okay, you owe this money. We want the money. But the husband told her before he died, I paid that amount to the banks. But he never told the wife where was the document. So the creditors came, asking, okay, show me the document, or we will take the house from you. So she asked Swedenborg, where's the document? And Swedenborg told the woman. So Swedenborg became well known. His insights describe his experience and conversations in the spiritual realm over more than a quarter century. His theology is firmly grounded in everyday life. Only through an active, useful, and loving life on earth can we be regenerated and brought to the divine. Because Swedenborg could talk to deceased people, they share with him a lot of things. And just to give you an idea, I don't know if you're familiar with Edgar Cayce Foundation. I used to volunteer here in California. I used to go to Vacaville. And one of the conferences was John Van Ocken, one of the presidents of the association. And he shared that when Edgar Cayce was alive, he was in these talks. And suddenly he said, and you need to do this and that. And people said, there is nobody there. Is he crazy or what? But no, there were deceased people around. And Edgar Cayce could see them. Because what happened in this journey, if you do not develop yourself, when you cross over, you will continue learning. And all these deceased people, they were coming just to learn about Edgar Cayce. He could see them. Same as Swedenborg. So Helen was introduced to two important works of Swedenborg: Heaven and Hell, Divine Love and Wisdom. These are the two most important works of Swedenborg. So because imagine in the 1700s, 1800s, somebody writing about this, it was not very easy to accept for people. When preferences are cast aside, the way stands clear and undisguised. This is a quote from a Zen Master about when you go beyond right or wrong, the way is who we are, is the primal mind that is in all of you. Because imagine this, when Helen read this text, she was 13, 14 years old. She was not so conditioned as we are. The text went deep into her being. She got it. Now we can have an understanding why she did what she did. Why she did what she did, because she got all this true knowledge, went deep into her soul. For example, back in September, I gave these two talks. I was in London, in Scotland. And I was in Gatwick Airport in London. And I was sitting there and I saw this marketing campaign. You see these little children with glasses, with swimming suits, like a fashion, because Europeans are a lot into fashion. It's amazing. You go to these European airports, it's like a, wow, it's just image. You see these little kids just with, look at me now. Now, there is nothing wrong with this. If you love your children, if you want to buy them the best, that's okay. It's a manifestation of your love to them. You know what is the problem? Oh, look at me, I'm better than you because I have these glasses from Italy. And we start to put people down. That's the problem of humans. When we start to discriminate, I am better than you because I am using this. Who you are has nothing to do with your age, sex, how much money you have. That is just secondary. That is the reason. So Seng-san here says, when preferences are cast aside, the way stands clear and undisguised. Helen was not affected by all this. I was reading here in the US on Time magazine years ago, teenagers in high school struggle in the US because there is so much competition. I mean, how much money do they have, the clothing, this and that. And some said it's tough to be in high school because there's so much competition in the high schools. So Helen, imagine that. She was not affected by all this. She was not rejecting that, as Wampo said, you do not reject, do not get attached. I don't care. I cannot see them. Then she was using the primal mind to do her mission in life. This is from Helen Keller's quote. Emanuel Swedenborg's message has been my strongest incitement to overcome limitations. Because she refers to life, it was a prison of clay. I mean, you did it for 1 minute. Imagine being deaf and blind. You know, Helen described, that's another lesson from Helen's life. She said, I went from living like an animal to becoming human, because if you cannot see, if you cannot hear, what else do? You eat, you drink, you sleep, and you go to the toilet. That's your life. That was her life. What else do? You're hungry. She went from living like an animal. And if you watch the movie, she was rebellious. The father was tired of her because she was nasty. Imagine she was living like an animal. But reading the work of Swedenborg, this truth has been to my faculties what light, color, and music are to the eye and ear. Because Swedenborg's works gave Helen vision to another life, what is called a true life. You know, Swedenborg, he describes in his books, he met a person that passed to the other side, and he said, you humans, you have no idea what is true life. You waste your time in so many stupid things. Here we have real life. That's what you're doing there. So imagine Helen, she was living in a prison of clay when she knew there is something else. So great minds inspired by Swedenborg. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thomas Carlyle, Walt Whitman, Albert Hubbard, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Edwin Markman, Henry James, all these people, Carl Jung, William Blake, all these people knew about Swedenborg. All these great minds knew about him. And all these people have great influence in the Western world. Ralph Waldo Emerson. I have two asterisks here because they were members of the Twilight Club with Walter Russell in Virginia. I was there. They were members of the Twilight Club in Virginia. It was a club that came in the 1920s, said we need to create a new humanity. and they get together the best minds in the US, Andrew Carnegie, Emerson, Walt Whitman. What can we do? Because humanity is entering into a phase of degeneration. I was in the 1920s. Imagine. Swedenborg also influenced cosmology, neurology. My father is a neurologist. I know, they know everything, neurologists. You cannot win a battle with them. They know everything. Psychology, philosophy, pragmatism, Zen Buddhism, because D.T. Suzuki, he introduced Zen Buddhism to the West. He read about Swedenborg in the 1900s. Visual arts, religion, science, mathematics, psychogeography. What is psychogeography? It is the influence of the land on humans. That is psychogeography. Very important. Where we live. This image does something to you. I mean, this is Ashland. We live in a beautiful place. I mean, it does something. I mean, when I drive here and you see the clouds over the mountain, it was like, wow, it's so beautiful. It does something to you. But think about Helen. She couldn't see this. Yes?
Did you say this is the view of Mount Shasta from Mount Ashland?
This is Mount Ashland. This is Mount Shasta.
Cool. I wanted to mention because these people.
Yes, this is, So imagine this. But think about that. Helen Keller didn't have this privilege that we have. And what she did. Where is that coming from? Yes. So this is psychogeography. And I noticed I used to live in Sacramento for 4 years. And when I moved to Mount Shasta, I noticed a subtle change. Very subtle. Very subtle. Now, this book, written by Swedenborg in 1758, Life on Other Planets. Originally published in 1758, this starting book details Swedenborg's conversation with spirits from Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, Venus, and the Moon, who discuss their lives on other planets and how their cultures differ from those of earthly life. Imagine presenting this book to society. Are you crazy? What are you smoking? So imagine this. In 1758. What is interesting is the following. The foreword of the new book was written by Raymond Moody. Who is Raymond Moody? You know who is Raymond Moody?
Life after life.
Yes. So Raymond Moody is one of the best researchers of near-death experiences. And what Raymond Moody shares in the book, in the foreword, that Raymond Moody, his father was a polymath. A polymath is a person that knows a lot of knowledge and has the ability to combine that and present that so people can understand. He had that ability. That's a polymath. And Raymond Moody, when he was little, he liked astronomy. He used to watch the stars, and he said, there is something else there. We're not the only ones. So Raymond Moody's father gave a copy of this book to Raymond Moody. So here we go. And Raymond Moody said, yes, this is it. And what is interesting is the following. Raymond Moody said, after all his years of research, that many of the stories that people shared to him about what's happening on the other side are in this book. Same, very similar. So how do you explain to me that a person in 1758 wrote descriptions of something that it was confirmed 300 years later by people that Raymond Moody interviewed? And you know what some of these spirits said? I am reading this book, it's fascinating. He says, you know, you humans are so corrupted. It says there, and he said, because in his travels, Swedenborg shared that he met angels, and he said, you know, in the past, we used to be together, humans and angels. And Plato or Pythagoras wrote about that. There was a time in history that we were living together. We used to take you around planets, but you became corrupted, and you lost that connection with us. Loss of integrity. And if you think that this is kind of a woo-woo, well, I practice Taoist alchemy. This is a book from a French scholar, Isabelle Robinet. It's called Taoist Meditation. Taoist meditation, the Mao Shan tradition of great purity, considered the most profound of China's sacred writings. And in this book, they describe same experiences as in this book. This has more than 2,000 years. This is very ancient. I went to China in 2010 to the mountains. That's when these places are useful. Because you need to go into that silence. Do not get any interruption. Because imagine that you are there, you are in astral travel. Hey, honey, dinner is ready. And you are traveling there. Say, no, you need to be in these places to go there. And that's what Swedenborg did. He went alone to this. You know, you want to prepare the mind for that. And this is one of the books of this tradition, Cosmos and Community. We are cosmic beings. We are citizens of the stars. And that we are influenced by the cosmos. So it's very important. This is very ancient. So this is not something new from Swedenborg. He confirmed many things that are part of the reality. It's called the ethical dimension of Taoism. Helen Keller says here, I had a joyous certainty that deafness and blindness were not an essential part of my existence, since they were not in any way a part of my immortal mind. The primal mind is immortal. There's something in every one of us that does not die, is indestructible, goes beyond time and space, and we all have that ability. That's true freedom. You do not need a guru, you do not need somebody to tell you. It is there, waiting for you. We all have that ability. But when you have access to the right knowledge, it becomes easier. And that's the example of Helen when she read that. And that's another important part here. Because Helen, she also had an astral travel. She has what is called an OBE, out of the body experience. And that when she said, yes, I am not this body, there is something else. But what prepared her mind, reading this text from Swedenborg, that prepared her mind to do it. So when you have access to right knowledge, you start to open ciphers in your brain. We'll talk about ciphers soon. But that's important when a human gets the right knowledge, it prepares the mind at the right moment, under the right conditions, you do a quantum leap. And that's what happened to her because she was prepared. By reading that intellectually, through Braille system, prepared her subconscious mind, and when she had the out-of-body experience, she was not afraid. She said, yes, there is something else. This is the confirmation, not only intellectually. She did it. And we can understand, because people that met Helen, she said, this woman is unstoppable. I mean, she's always joyful. I mean, she's always happy. Where is that coming from? In Buddhism, we used to sing, and I do sometimes, 4 characteristics of a human being: eternal, joyous, selfless, and pure. That's who we are in essence. Eternal, joyous, selfless, and pure. It's a pure joy. It's always there, no matter what. And that's an example of her. I mean, she was in darkness. So imagine that. She fell in love with a man. She couldn't get married because the family prevented that. She said, Helen, it's not going to work, Helen. You get pregnant, it's going to be very difficult. And they stopped her because she fell in love with a man and they were in love. And she said, it was very difficult for me. I have all this sexual passion. Imagine, as I want to express that, but I couldn't. And then she transformed that into all service. That's alchemy. The importance of friendship. My friends have made the story of my life in 1,000 ways. They have turned my limitations into beautiful privileges. It's the value of friendship, of community. We are not alone. Back to Swedenborg. Emerson chose Swedenborg as one of his representative men. This man, who appeared to his contemporaries as a visionary, an elixir of moonbeams, no doubt led the most real life of any man then in the world. A colossal soul, he lies vast abroad of his times, uncomprehended by them, and requires a long focal distance to be seen. Imagine what a human being can do. I mean, Emerson, one of the spiritual fathers in the US, he was deeply influenced by Swedenborg. And the key word here is a visionary. We need to become visionaries. It's very important in your life. We have many problems now. I was reading on the news that in Marseille, France, a few months ago, they declared a curfew for children because of the gang problems in Marseille, in France. They have so much problems there. I mean, it's very difficult. Imagine that a curfew for children. I mean, when I was 11 years old, I mean, I was in my bike at 11 p.m. But imagine, because they said it's very dangerous there now. It was the capital of France. They are flooding Europe with cocaine through submarines. They build the submarines in the jungle, in the Amazon jungle. And they go through the sea and they're flooding all Europe with cocaine, with submarines. I saw it yesterday on the news, the Wall Street Journal. Imagine, the question is why people, and the article said the consumption of cocaine in the world is going up. Why? Why people are consuming more cocaine? Because they are enslaved by the senses. And a deaf and blind woman, what she did. Mark Twain was one of the best friends of Helen. Out of Swedenborg's evidence from beyond Earth's frontier, I construct a word that shall measure up to the high claims of my spirit when I quit this wonderful but imprisoning house of clay. And that's one reason people go to monasteries, to get free of this house of clay, momentarily, right? But the real human being is the one that can do it in daily life, with children, with pressures in the job. That's the real human being, that you do not escape to a place to avoid this. Graham Bell was one of the supporters of Helen Keller. He was teaching deaf people. His wife was a deaf woman. This is what Helen says from Swedenborg. He obeyed the call of everlasting truth, committed himself to the difficulties and the solitude of a new era, and upheld his opinion against the hostility of the public with hope that they might provide a guidance more faithful and secure for coming generations. This is another lesson here. Imagine that Swedenborg, because he was criticized, obviously. Are you crazy reading about talking with beings from Jupiter? But he said, no, I will continue. I'm going to go on. Imagine he stepped back and he went quiet. He never wrote anything. Helen never had access to those writings. Imagine. We're all interconnected. We never know the consequence of our actions. So we need to become visionaries. We never know. Helen Keller, she's in Scotland here. It was his mission of Swedenborg to teach people to listen to the inward voice rather than opinions and disputations. She was given a doctorate degree in Scotland. That's her. So imagine that people admire Helen so much. Because you know what stops people from doing what they love in life? They look at the mirror, I am too old. Oh, look at me, I am too old. Look at those people on Facebook, I am too old. She didn't care. What? What is that? I mean, she could feel that she was getting old, but she wasn't affected by that like most of humans are. I mean, she didn't care. I mean, oh, I cannot see anything. You see how the mind is just a game of the mind. It's a game. Especially now with AI. People are enslaved by the senses. Who is younger? Look at these people with avatars, getting into avatar, changing the avatar to make it younger. There is nothing wrong, but if you do that to avoid reality, you get into troubles. She didn't waste time on all those things that we humans waste time, comparing this and that. Out of the chaos of human experience, an individual is now and then lifted to the peak of spiritual consciousness. That's what we want. There is no difference between Helen Keller and you. Zero. We have the same essence. Because when you go from chaos, look at the chaos that is going now. It's going on now. We live in chaos. Because people do not know how to control the senses. That's one. It takes mastery. Now, let's go deeper to understand how Helen was able to do what she did. Okay? What is a cipher? Okay? A cipher is a secret or disguised way of writing a code. Put a message into secret writing and code. Okay? There was a culture that they knew the importance of the ciphers, the Egyptians. These are ciphers. The ciphers are deep, deep, deep into your subconscious mind. They are there, waiting for you to open them. They are there. We can understand one of the purpose of the ciphers is to awaken the potential that is dormant in your psyche. The Egyptians mastered the art. That is the reason they reached the highest level of civilization, because they knew how to awaken your potential. It went down because human corruption, as always. Now, when I was in Virginia, I presented this at the University of Science and Philosophy with Dr. Walter Russell, who was a mentor of Nikola Tesla. He was known as the American Da Vinci. The symbol of the Tao, that is very common, the yin-yang duality, illustrates the universal system model that represents the essence of Dr. Russell's scientific painting and charts. For example, this is a chart from Walter Russell, right? This is the famous yin and yang. So he wrote this in 1949. He got a download from the cosmos, and he began to get all this information, and he put it down, right? Now, this has 8,000 years old, the yin-yang symbol. So we have the one divides into two, okay? Then positive, negative. When you combine one, okay, we have the one, this one is this one. The one divides into two, and then when we add one positive, and one negative, And then when we combine this with this, it becomes what is called a trigram. If we combine all these, became 8. And that's what Walter Russell puts here, the number 8. Now, when we combine a trigram with other trigram, this with this, this with this, this with this, and this with this, it becomes, we have how many? 64. And then we have here the itching diagram. It is said that many technological inventions are based on this diagram. The computer are based on this, the binary system. Now, how do we apply this in daily life? So what is the purpose of this? Okay. How many squares are in a chessboard? Oh, 64, right? Okay. 64. Question. How many chess movements are possible in this chessboard? Any takers? You want to guess? How many?
A whole bunch.
Okay. Give me a number. 1 million, 2 billion movements. 100,000 movements possible. The total number of possible chess combinations is famously astronomical, far greater than the number of atoms in the observable universe. And you know what? This is your mind. This is you. There are no limits to the human mind. No limits. We have no limits. This is who you are. Mm-hmm. I was in London. I gave the talk at the Steiner House in London, because this is part of the sacred geometry talk that I gave here 6 months ago. You were here. So I gave this talk. This is part of the sacred geometry. You can go to the YouTube channel of the library. It's there. So imagine Rudolf Steiner. You are familiar with him. He wrote this book, Sacred Geometry, Alchemy, and Mathematics. Rudolf Steiner was like Swedenborg. He was a clairvoyant. He could see other dimensions. It says here, the abstract images in religious documents are more than mere outer symbols. They are mighty realities. The more diligently and energetically you ponder such analogies, the more eagerly you submerge yourself in them, the more they work on your spirit to release higher capacities. What is the key word here? To release. They are there dormant in all of you, no matter your age. They are there. And we can understand how Helen did what she did. Because again, and we'll go back to the image of the children posing with my glasses from Italy, this and that. The more diligently and energetically you ponder such analogies, she was doing that. She was pondering, okay, what is this? She was not distracted by Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. She went deep. And she opened the ciphers in her brain. And she released her latent abilities. That we can explain this. There are people that have all the senses, they do nothing in life. And there is no difference between Helen Keller and you. There is no difference at all. No difference. That's an example. Mm-hmm. That's the relevance, especially now that we are controlled by the senses. You know how much it costs 30 seconds of an ad in the Super Bowl? For a commercial in the Super Bowl, for 30 seconds. $17 million, 17, for 30 seconds. Why do they pay so much for 30 seconds? Because it works. It works. They control you. It's a big business. They're willing to pay $17 million for 30 seconds. They want the most important commodity is your attention. That's the most important commodity. They want your attention because they know once they get you, they get you. Right there. We have no limits. It's all in the mind. Now, that's the adventure, right? What is next? Now, okay, this quote, because people that met Helen said, this woman, she has like this mind of risk-taker. Where is this coming from, this adventure? This quote, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Where is that mentality coming from? A deaf and blind woman. Okay? We'll play a YouTube video. Paul? Oh. Oh, where's the light?
There's some switches around the
Oh.
corner down here.
Thank you. This is the life of Swedenborg. Okay, thank you, Paul. If you notice, as I mentioned, he was an inventor. If you know, Da Vinci, he developed a flying machine. Swedenborg also did that. You saw the flying machine, the submarine. He did that. He designed a flying machine in the 1700s, a submarine. Now, this is something personal that whenever I see that video, for me, that describes the American spirit of Americans. I came to the US when I was 28. I mean, I have a good job. I came here for my spiritual freedom, right? I went to the Zen Center. But when I grew up, for me, this for me, the image of Americans, risk-takers, going beyond, innovation. And we go back to the PowerPoint. Yeah. this interesting, thank you. Can you expand that? Yes, thank you. So when I gave the talk in Virginia, after the talk, I went around the corner in Waynesboro. I was in Waynesboro. I went to a coffee shop. I was so tired. And then I saw this book, America the Ingenious. What is about America that makes it a nation of inventors, tinkerers, researchers, and adventurers? Obsessive pursuers of the never before created. And equally, what is it that makes America such a fertile place to explore, discover, and launch the next big thing? And it shows all the examples of great people doing great inventions. A woman that made the dishwasher, it was a woman. She was started doing that manualism. She developed a dishwasher, a woman. And that's the point. This is the spirit. And we can understand how these great American minds were attracted to Swedenborg. Because this is what we need. This kind of mentality, risk takers to solve problems that we have. For example, here, we have a talk here months ago of the Urantia book. Here at the library, it says, science guided by wisdom may become man's great social liberator. Mortal man is not an evolutionary accident. There is a precise system, a universal law, which determines the unfolding of the planetary life plan on the spheres of space. So we need technology. We need science because it evolves humans. There is nothing wrong with technology. It's like a knife, right? A knife is not good or bad. A knife for a criminal, it can kill, so it's bad. But for a doctor, it can cause a tumor. So if a knife bad? No. Same as the internet. There are many things that is happening now. I mentor children, and we have big problems with children in the US and around the world. And due to technology, it's going up, it's increasing. Is technology bad? No. It's all in the mind. But what is it? Here, the living value of a belief depends not on our limited experience, but on its benefit to mankind. And an overruling beneficence is the only teaching that ultimately justifies our knowledge or gives dignity to civilization. Here the key word, dignity to civilization. You know, as a Casa volunteer, I need to read the cases. What happened to the children? I have a case of a child. He's 4 years old. He lost all his teeth, rotten. The mother was neglecting him. Instead of being with him, he was playing in the casino while he was waiting in the car for hours. What is the dignity to civilization? What happened to a human being, a mother abandoned her child? What is that coming from? There's a reason for that. Okay, there are several reasons. One of them is the following. I am a business consultant. I read the Wall Street Journal almost on a daily basis. It's very interesting when you see the money flying from one place to another. I was in Dubai 2 years ago. It's an illusion. We should not have poverty on the planet. There's so much money there. We should not have poverty. We have poverty because of ignorance. I can tell you that. Well, then, so I read the Wall Street Journal, but I noticed something. Sometimes the Wall Street Journal talk, oh, Americans this, Americans that, American couples, but they always put, most of the time, fat people. That's a plan. That is not an accident. They put like the average American is fat, but fat. I mean, this is not normal. They are changing the DNA of people. I was in the court in Wairika in a case. I get out from the court, and I saw a beautiful baby, beautiful baby with the mother. But I saw the mother. She was 3 times her size. It was not normal. And that's the prison of clay. Whoever controls your health controls your life. That's the way they control people. Your potential is dormant, is trapped. So it's dignity to civilization. We need to be aware how the mind functions. And I know, because I've seen all these cases, as a CASA volunteer, I study this, mind programming. There's a lot of mind programming around because people do not know this. And now more than ever with AI technology, which is not bad. But people do not know how the mind works. It's easy to control people. We need to understand this in life because we want to bring back the dignity to civilization. And it's very sad sometimes what I read about what is going on with people here. 1 hour from here, I mentor a kid, he's 15 years old. And he tells me what is going on. He said, yeah, I saw a woman. She was like this. It's called the fin position. That's what they call it because it's due to the fentanyl. He told me, she was gone, but gone. So sad. He's telling me what is going on in the high schools with the kids. That should not be happening. We need to awake to this. What is happening? Only by exercising our powers of thought and keeping our hearts always warm and pure do we become truly alive. The Heart Sutra, here. Now, here, powers of thought. I gave this talk here precisely because of that. Powers of thought. Because one thing about Helen Keller, she learned how to use the mind. That's what she did, the powers of thought. We do not know how to think. That's another reason we have so many problems. And people in power, they know how the mind works, and they use it against you. You know, Helen Keller did a study why people get blind. And it was sometimes because of lack of business ethics. She found that through research. Our choice of life is this delight, this sweet expansion of mind and heart without which no worldwide achievement is possible. That's a map that she's giving us. You need to expand your mind and the heart. Sacred marriage. It's very important. This is a quote from Mark Twain. He says, Napoleon tried to conquer the world by force, and he failed. Helen Keller tried to conquer the world by the power of the mind, and she succeeded.
Who said that?
Mark Twain, about Helen Keller. He said, 2 of the most important persons in the 19th century, Napoleon and Helen Keller. It's the power of the mind. Well, and for being here and share this knowledge with others.